it's all the same. Some things never change. It's all the same. Some things never change. It's all the same. Some things never change. I couldn't stop and say no. It's all the same. You won't take the blame, even when you are blowing up. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save enough. Oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save enough. Oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how.
1 2. Tatemlo yarileng fast. Kubele mepe.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start part B of the program. All ushers, please assist us with ushering the guests back to their chairs. Thank you.
Stand by. My honored guests, you all promised me that you'll be seated by 14:30. It's now 14:32. Yeah, Manamela is sitting down. Can we all do so? Manamela and your friends, can you sit down? Honored guests, if we can move faster. If we can just move faster and occupy our seats, that will make my day. Otherwise, I won't get paid. But inside the concert. Yo, somebody is walking so slow. I don't know what happened during lunch. Please, colleagues, please. Honored guests, we are starting now. Galilesa. We are starting now, please. Thank you very much. We're going to start. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you don't have the after lunch fatigue. Observing all protocols, it is my absolute pleasure to join you here today. If I can just remind you what our topic is, it's leadership and governance for transport as an anchor for inclusive growth in Southern Africa. And if I can please invite my ministers who are joining me today to the stage, please. Join me in welcoming from Tanzania, the Deputy Minister of Transport. You can give a round of applause, there we go. The State Secretary Deputy Minister of Transport from Mozambique, Assistant Minister of Transport from Botswana, and the Principal Secretary of Minister of Public Works and Transport from Eswatini. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. So, transport, as we all know, is far more than infrastructure. Roads, railways, ports, and airports are the systems that connect our economies, link communities to opportunity, and enable our countries to participate meaningfully in regional and global trade. You'd think by now I'd have this memorized. But we all already know this, and yet we're still talking about the infrastructure that will connect us more effectively, lower the cost of doing business, strengthen competitiveness, and attract investment with buzzwords like private sector participation and, of course, triple Ps. Leadership provides the vision, this being policy, plans, and the enabling environment, whilst governance ensures that investments are transparent, coordinated, and aligned with long-term national and regional priorities. So I would like to turn to my SADC panel today to set the scene for our discussion with their opening remarks. Just a reminder, 3 minutes each. And if we can start with Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, for the introduction and the member of the floor. For us, Tanzania specifically, leadership and governance play a significant role in the transport system. Because, as you all know, that in Tanzania, we construct almost 2,290 SGR. We rehabilitate about 2,700 meter gauge. Similarly to the rehabilitation of the Cape gauge that is from Dar es Salaam to Zambia, the Tazara rail. So if you connect all together, you form almost about 8,000 kilometers. So, number one, you need a clear vision, direction, a formulation of the policies. So the tone is being set by the leadership. Number one, you need a strong leadership, like what we have in Tanzania by having Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, who set the vision and tell the public that now we have to go in this direction. Everyone has to follow. And number two, you have to set resources, because vision and direction also must be accompanied by resources allocation. For example, in the SGL alone, it is spent or allocated about 15 billion USD. USD. So talking alone does not complement what you have in the vision. You must have resources, and the resources that must be allocated by the government or by the leaders. And number 3, for example, in Tanzania, after having the resources and started the implementation of the project that is from Dar es Salaam, goes to connect some countries like Uganda through Lake Victoria, or to Congo through Lake Tanganyika and Bujumbura. Number 3, you need to review the legal framework. That's why the TRC, TRC Tanzania Corporation for Railway, it was now, we now decided to review the legal framework to allow the open access. And this, why we did that, it is because you have the longest railway, but you cannot alone save it. So you need the private sector to operate the rolling stocks and others. So for us in Tanzania, you highly need strong leadership, governance and leadership to make sure that these projects are being conducted. And if implemented, they will benefit your country and the neighboring countries. For example, Burundi, Zambia, Congo, Malawi, South Sudan, Uganda, and the likes. Thank you so much, Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister from Mozambique.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Mozambique believes that leadership and direction are very important to ensure that the right policies are developed and implemented in a timely manner. There is, for instance, an example given by His Excellency Mr. President Cyril Ramaphosa with respect to the N4. There has been projected in 1997 the one-stop border post, and that only came to fruition at the end of last year, and we are very much involved with the counterpart from South Africa in making sure that that command is taken forward. And this has highlighted one issue, which is the implementation of regional projects have been very much affected by weak institutional coordination between different institutions in our countries. And that's why the leadership in this perspective has got its own role. It's got to be present, and this is what we have witnessed with our presidents, the two of them from Mozambique, Daniel Chap and the President Cyril Ramaphosa. But beyond the institutional coordination, many organizations are focused in internal thinking. We are actually having the private sector thinking as a policymaker. And that's why the approach and the vision that Mozambique has adopted is that one cannot be a player and the referee at the same time. The private sector is called to be part of the process, development process, by having a clear and crystal clear regulatory framework to do business. And this is what we actually are envisaging in taking forward. But also, Mozambique, it's located, fortunately, on corridors which are regional. And I would like here to challenge leadership in all levels. It should not be only from the presidential level, but for us as implementers, to get the leadership and direction to transform or to implement what we given as a command, strategically or politically, to a technical and a more operational that will be a conducive environment for us to develop our own countries. Thank you very much.
I'm impressed. 3 minutes on the dot. Botswana.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Something interesting is happening in Botswana. For the past 58 years, there's been one party that has been governing the country. So now we've witnessed a change of power, we've witnessed a change of leadership, and under the leadership of Advocate Gideon Dumaboko, we see Botswana now as the youngest parliament in Africa and possibly in the whole world. So you need a very strong leader who is a visionary as well. So what we did in Botswana, we identified our true north, which reads a digitally enabled, export-led, and diversified high-income economy, which sees every Botswana employed, empowered, and fulfilled. So what happens now is we have the roadmap. We've set ourselves a target to become a logistics hub. So what we intend to do is we are going to develop all these corridors that we see beneficial, not only for our country, but for the region as a whole. So you need a visionary to actually achieve that. On top of that, we came up with the Botswana Economic Transformation Program. It's a program that's it's a self-assessing tool as well that will help us deliver this project, implement this project, and also identify all the bottlenecks and red flags that may come up or that we've witnessed in the past. But just to sum it up, Botswana is geographically located in the center of SADC. We don't see ourselves as land-locked. We see ourselves as land-linked. So we are the intention is to develop these corridors that will make it possible for Namibia to trade with Mozambique, make it possible for South Africa to trade with Congo, Zambia, and other African countries. So, you know, we've changed our interpretation of challenges. We see them as opportunities. Thank you.
Eswatini, Kingdom.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you to Minister Chrissy for inviting us to this national conference. We really appreciate it. That's actually the kind of leadership that we are looking up to in the region, to say when we have conferences of this nature, we all get together and plan together. And that's the attitude that Eswatini is taking, and we're taking our engagement with regional structures very, very seriously. Eswatini is strategically positioned between the two big countries, Mozambique and South Africa. And in South Africa, there is the Gauteng region, which is the heartbeat of the South African economy. So if you look at the natural flow of goods and people going into the ocean, they will naturally would pass through Eswatini. So then recognizing that in itself is quite huge to say, as Eswatini, we need to collaborate even much, much more stronger with our regional countries, and so that we can develop an infrastructure, you know, which will not be resilient, but also accommodating, you know, the flow of goods particularly from South Africa going into Mozambique, and also from Mozambique as well to South Africa, because we are the only country in Southern Africa that can actually link Maputo with the ports of Durban and the port of Richards Bay. So in terms of leadership, taking that is very serious. And secondly, doing an introspection. As a country, we have done an introspection to see where we have dropped the ball in the past, and we realize that, you know, instruments like master plans, embracing PPPs, interagency cooperation with our sister countries, and also strengthening our local institutions that are delivering, like the infrastructure, that we railways, the aviation companies, the roads agents. We have set up one, and that in itself, that's the leadership and governance that we are taking, to say we're taking this very, very serious, and cooperating with regional parties and strengthening internal institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to get to our first round of questions. Tanzania represents an alternative export corridor for the same mining region through the port of Dar es Salaam, and I'm talking about, the DRC, and the Tazara Railway. In addition, significant progress has been made with the Standard Gauge Railway, further strengthening regional connectivity. This effectively means that Tanzania Transport Network serves several landlocked countries across the region. How important is regional policy coordination to ensure that the transport investments operate as an integrated regional system?
Thank you, moderator. As I spoke before, the investment that the South Africa SADC members were putting in the infrastructure is very huge. So one of the most important points to note is policy coordination, how we can coordinate the policies in our countries. And we have started, for example, if you see the cooperation between our country and our neighbor country, which is Zambia, which is being called is our neighbor country. Some of the issues has been started to be coordinated, including having the one border, one stop center for border, for customs and others. The same as having the cargo vehicle system and the others. And this, I would like to urge all the member states to make sure that we align ourselves and making sure that our policies do correlate, are similar. Because otherwise, all the investment put will be nullified. As you can see, for example, our country, as we have spoke, the port of Dar es Salaam, the use of the port of Dar es Salaam has increased tremendously in these 3 to 4 years. The cargo that was being, the transit cargo that was saved in 2021 was almost 5.6 metric tons. But last month we recorded about 15 million metric tons. The same, similar to the whole tonnage that was being operated by the TPA, Tanzania Ports Authority in the country, were almost like 17.7 million metric tons. But right now it is almost 38 million metric tons. So you see that increase and that potential. And the cargo are being utilized within the country of Tanzania and the rest to other countries. So the policy coordination that if I will be seen, will be taken under serious consideration will not only benefit Tanzania, but also neighbor countries as we spoke. Zambia, Congo, Malawi, South Sudan, and others, almost 7 to 6 member states which are landlocked. So this is very important. I think this conference has to take care and come out with a draft resolution that will help us to see the best way forward to go. And I think it is also an opportunity for South Africa, because I know here you have the one of the industries that assemble or manufacture trains and others. So it's an opportunity for you in our country and others. Thank you.
Thank you. Mozambique, you play a central role in Southern Africa's transport network with ports, railways, airports, and road corridor. Yet, managing such a complex system also brings significant challenges, from infrastructure rehabilitation and capacity constraints to coordination across different transport modes and institutions. How does Mozambique balance its national transport development priorities with its role as a regional logistics gateway? Thank you.
Thank you. We are currently working on the development of infrastructures and of transport infrastructures and consolidating what we have already as a backbone. Regionally, Mozambique contributes with 3 main regional corridors: the Maputo corridor, the Beira corridor, and the Nacala corridor. And those infrastructures, along as the trunk infrastructures, have been somehow a challenge for Mozambique in terms of enabling what one would consider the efficiency on the ports, the efficiency in the whole value chain. And as part of a gateway to the region and also for other continents, we are in Mozambique balancing what we consider to be the trade and facilitation with the member countries on the region, taking also in parallel with the strategy that transport has in Mozambique, which is a strategy for the development of an integrated transport system in which that integrated would bring to Mozambique not investments only on the infrastructure, but would also enable Mozambique to adhere and also benchmark with neighboring countries in order to make sure that what is internal planning for the country does not leave aside the other countries which also contribute to the anchor ports that we have, because more than 50% of the cargo handled, they come from the regional corridors in neighboring countries, and that has been always put in the priority to make sure that also Mozambique does not isolate itself from the wider perspective in the transport and logistic value chain. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Botswana, landlocked country, you spoke just now about being land-linked. You do depend heavily on regional transport corridors to access ports and international markets. As regional infrastructure development accelerates, particularly around rail and road corridors and your airport infrastructure, how is Botswana positioning its transport strategy under the Economic Transformation Programme to strengthen regional connectivity and ensure reliable access to global trade and regional routes? Thank you.
Thank you. For us, the intention is that when South Africa grows through the transport industry, when Namibia grows through the transport industry, and Mozambique, we want to be part of it. The strategy is we develop the Trans-Kalahari rail line that will link us to Namibia, and also develop it, do it in such a way that it will give us access to the ports of Mozambique as well, because we understand we don't have the population to consume some of these goods or freight that is transitioning through our country. But Botswana offers a safe place investment-wise, even the transition of goods, movement of goods from border to another border. So for us, that is how we see Botswana becoming a logistics hub. We also intend to build the Mosetseka Zungula Livingston railway line. It links us to Namibia. We've finished the most difficult part, which was the bridge that crosses the Chobe River or the Zambezi River. So now the bridge itself has a provision for rail. So the intention now is to actually link South Africa with Zambia through a railway line that passes through our country. We also in plans of developing the Mosetseka Zungula, Mama Bulele Palale, sorry. This one links us with South Africa. I'm here and I'm hoping that by the end of this conference we'll be sealing the deal and signing the MOU with South Africa. But just to bring it back to your question, we also have a program, the Botswana Economic Transformation Program. We are busy with the road shows, trying to attract investors. We are working on reforming our triple P's frameworks, legislation in terms of tax, because we've realized that outside financing, you have to have very, very strong legislative frameworks put in place. This was the gap that has been missing for the longest of time. But now, if you come up with investor-friendly frameworks, then you can now easily attract investment, and also the ease of doing business. You know, that has always been a challenge, especially for Africa, not just Botswana. It has always been a challenge. Power, internet, even logistics of moving around within the country has always been a challenge. But we are hoping that when we get this, when we finish the reforms, everything will now roll into place. Thank you.
Eswatini, your country sits along an important regional transport route connecting South Africa, Mozambique, particularly through rail and road corridors that support regional trade and industrial supply chains. And more recently, your push to develop your airport and air cargo strategy. Given the country's strategic geographic position, how is Eswatini strengthening its transport infrastructure and governance frameworks, policy and implementation to ensure it remains a reliable link within Southern Africa's regional logistics network? Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. We are looking at the transportation sector as a complete ecosystem. Developing now from that end, we are looking into developing an intermodal transportation logistics project in Eswatini. A decision has been taken by Cabinet, which will involve expansion of the airport, and also in particular in that airport, building a new cargo terminal in the airport. And also close by to the airport, there is a railway station, Mbaga railway station. And that Mbaga railway station, it's where the lines from Komati Port and the Goba line connects. And also it connects from that Mbaga station to Richards Bay. Then, like, we want to transform that station as a regional railway interchange station, which is going to have a spare to the cargo terminal, so that if there are goods that are coming from either South Africa or Mozambique that would want to use our new cargo terminal building into international markets, they can actually use that. So, it's just developing that entire corridor, and also being an inland country, we want to concentrate on developing dry ports in and around the airport precinct, so that we can actually even serve as an alternative for goods that are originating from Mpumalanga. You know, they can come into Eswatini and have a gateway into international markets. So, like my colleague here from Botswana, we are actually repositioning ourselves as a regional transit hub, you know, particularly concentrating on goods that are, you know, originating not only from Gauteng, but also the Lephalele side of things, because we also can provide the shortest link for commodities that are originating from parts of Botswana, DRC, but then there is that missing link, you know, which is also a subject of intense discussion, the Eswatini Rail Link project, which has been around for quite a while, which is up and alive, and it's becoming part of that strategic investment into developing the entire corridor.
So Tanzania, large infrastructure programs often depend on private sector participation and international finance. What governance mechanisms are necessary to attract investors while ensuring transparency and long-term national benefit? What key elements has unlocked the funding for Tanzania's SGR?
Okay, thank you, moderator. For us in Tanzania, for the case, so far the case of funding is concerned, we have some issues that were put in place before approaching the funding opportunities. Number one, as a country, you need to have direction, vision, where you want to go. For example, we said we need to have SGR that connect our country to the neighbor countries. We need to have ports, modernization of ports, the ports of Dar es Salaam and other ports along the lakes that are in our country. And number three, we said we need to have ships in those lakes. We have Lake Victoria, that border Tanzania and Uganda, of which we have 51% of occupation in the lake. And Lake Tanganyika, where Congo, they have almost 45%, we have 41%, and Bujumbura, they have 8%, and Zambia is 6%. And Nyasa, which connect Tanzania and Malawi, of which we have 18%. So, number one is vision. Where you guys want to go? We said you want to have SGR, we need to have ports, we need to have ships, and we need to have aircraft. So by that time we had 1 aircraft. Right now we have 16. And we need to modernize all the airports all over the country. But we don't have money. And now how are we doing? So number one is to have clear leadership. When we went to the election, we voted for Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan because we knew she know our vision. Number one, we must have good leadership. Number three, we also saw that it was very important to have a clear and predictable policies. Most of the African countries, sometimes we don't have policies that are predictable. They are interchangeably, today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow. So you have to be certain to your policies so that to make sure that donors' confidence or financial institutions or partners or PPP, they may be attracted to you. And another thing that we needed to have is having the documentation in place. For example, right now, all the most of the projects we have in our country, even those projects which are not already started, the papers are at place. So it's become easier to approach them. But another one, the last one, is compliance. Make sure that you comply. So through this one and others has helped us to have funding from international financial institutions, AFDBs, World Bank, have PPPs. For example, in Port of Dar es Salaam, we have private operators who has confidence, has resources. They help us in making sure that the port do operate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mozambique, transport has the potential to unlock rural economies, mining regions, and emerging enterprise. What policies or governance reforms are needed to ensure that transport systems deliver inclusive growth and opportunities for smaller businesses and communities? Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding rural transport, in 2009, we established the Rural Transport Strategy, and in 2021, it was launched the program which is called Promote Transport, Promote Transport, which is Promote Transport Program in English. And that is aimed at rehabilitating and maintaining about 2,500 kilometers of rural roads, mainly in the northern province, with a financing of 124 million euros by the European Union. That is part of a plan or strategy that we are considering in linking the production areas to the consumers and bringing along the concepts that are part of good practices in other latitudes of the world, in which we see areas where the government would prepare and motivate the private sector to undertake value-adding activities on the production, and also which would bring employments, which would bring entrepreneurship from the local people that are affected by the corridors. We also have looked, based on the experiences and the challenges that the country has, the type of transport. The rural transport, which is based on a mixed type of transports that are adequate for the conditions of the roads that we have, but all of this with one purpose, which is to make sure that the production or the initiatives by the small businesses are part of the feeders on those main corridors. Mozambique at the moment has got a project of a north-south rail corridor. This is to link up the three corridors that use to serve the hinterland, and also, but have neglected to some extent the development of all those small areas where people lives matter. So here we count with the private sector to be involved as a catalyzer for that development. And once again, I would like to point out that Mozambique is open for investments, and whoever would be interested with the know-how, knowledge, to bring the rolling stock, to build to build the infrastructure on the North-South corridor, you're all invited, because the incentives, they also have been put in place not just for the local entrepreneurship, but also in the perspective of attracting the bigger companies or organizations that would help implementing the strategy of the rural transport. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Botswana, what in your view have been the key barriers that have slowed down the transition from planning to implementation on some of the projects that you have been trying to move from planning to delivery?
I think number one of them is analysis paralysis, where you see ourselves sitting on 10-year-old feasibility studies. It just takes forever because we are just analyzing, and we don't implement. So I think with that, we took a decision, or a bold decision, to come up with this program, the BETP program, that, if you come up with a project implementation plan that is self-assessing and it accelerates compliance, permit issuance, it picks up all these legislations that need to be, or that ought to be fixed. This program now becomes the tool that will see us becoming or following the trajectory that we want to do. So the other challenge also is lack of harmonization. Now this speaks to our neighboring countries. We see a lot of queue time. If a train leaves South Africa, comes into Botswana, or vice versa, it just takes forever to be processed. The same applies to trucks leaving Namibia, coming into Botswana, Zambia. So that is the challenge that we see. But now with digitalization and digitizing all these services, we are able now to actually bridge that gap and accelerate transition or movement of goods from one country to another through our country. So I think something interesting is happening in Botswana. So I'll urge everyone who is in the rail industry, the air industry, to consider Botswana. We are in the plans of expanding our Maung International Airport, which is by volume the busiest in the region. So there's just too much traffic that side. So we are expanding that airport. We are working on our corridors as well. We are dualing one of the road corridor. So these are our plans that we believe are going to put Botswana in a different level altogether. So I think those are the three challenges that we are, or rather two challenges: analysis paralysis and lack of harmonization. And again, if we harmonize not just our legislation, it becomes easy, It becomes easy for an investor who's maybe based in South Africa to now move to Botswana, because we are more or less using the same legislation. So I think harmonization is the way to go. So with our BETP program, we are on course to actually realize that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and that's great news. My question to Eswatini is kind of similar in terms of, how you're getting across the finish line. You do have several projects, important transport projects that have been in plan for quite a long time. Eswatini Rail Link, which you just said earlier, was moving forward. From a leadership and governance perspective, what has been the most difficult challenge in moving these projects from planning to implementation?
No, thank you, moderator. If like I can give an honest response to this one, it's just like a lack of execution character, and particularly on the rail link project. It's a transboundary project that Eswatini is implementing together with South Africa. At somewhere along the implementation, I think each one of the parties, there's just having like lack of traction, maybe due to frequent changes in the executives that are running the project. This is a very big project. It's in the region of 30 billion rands, and it requires quite a lot of careful planning and consistency in leadership. So if you have constant changes at leadership level for a project of this magnitude, it sends very wrong signals to the market as well. So I think even our governments, when we get into the kind of these projects, we need to have that kind of consistency in the leadership. Also, is the clarity on the agreements, and particularly and skill on implementation of boundary kind of projects. The rules like PPP frameworks, they are not standard, across the region. So again, if we can have standard PPP frameworks and all the modalities that will take the projects through, because if the financiers will speak to one country and find different rules and find different rules in another country, it frustrates progress, in those projects. But I think where we are now, we have learned our lessons, and I think we are at a point where we're picking ourselves up. One, to start with the regional frameworks that would ensure complementarity and seamlessness in execution of projects at this level. But otherwise, what we hear outside there, because we've always been thinking that finance is a problem, and the prospective financiers always say, if the project is planned well, it shouldn't really be that of a challenge in bringing the finances through. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not entirely sure how we're doing with time, so I think for our follow-up questions for round 2, I'm just going to touch on one of them, and then we'll go into closing. So Tanzania, which transport investment do you believe will have the greatest impact on regional trade over the next decade? 2 minutes.
Thank you. The country will have various investments that we do operate in our country, as I said earlier. But the investment that we see that will have a regional impact over the decades, some decades to come, is the standard gauge railway. Because right now we are under operation, construction of the 2,290 kilometer. And this SGR is connecting from our country to neighboring country. Similarly, we have a plan. We're going to start the northern corridor that connect Tanga to Kilimanjaro to Lake Victoria. It is almost 1,000 kilometers. Another one is the southern corridor that connect Lake Nyasa to Mtwara Port, almost 1,000 kilometers. And this connect to the area of the mining center where there is coal and others mining. So we believe the SGR that will almost cost more than 25 billion USD will be making a turning effect to our country, and it will help to utilize fully the ports that has been under construction from Dar es Salaam Port, Mtwara Ports and others. Similarly with the Bagamoyo Port that is being counted is going to be probably the biggest port in Africa, who is capable of handling hundreds of million metric tons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mozambique, you've faced several challenges ranging from climate events to rapid growth in trade volumes. From a governance perspective, how is resilience or climate resilience being incorporated into your planning and transport infrastructure? Thank you.
Thank you. The climate change severely affected Mozambique in particular and also in the region. We could all follow up the news. And Mozambique, was impacted by heavy rains in the southern region, which flooded cities, destroyed the whole, basically affected severely the transport and the transport and logistics infrastructures. These rains did also affect South Africa. And the issue of the climate change, the reality, it is an issue that cannot be ignored. And Mozambique is not ignored in a way that we are challenged as government and as a whole, in fact also as part of the region, to adopt a more resilient undertakings, initiatives, based not on the economic perspective, but as a science, building new roads, building new infrastructures on the value chains that will be resilient. This is a challenge that brings us to count with the neighboring countries in terms of the expertise, in terms of the know-how that are there. I've heard here from the first panel up to now that there's some good experiences and good knowledge on the railway, good knowledge on the transport that is spread around here with the private sector. But the private sector is the biggest ally to help the facilitator, which is government, to set up the role, to facilitate and also enable the private sector to come up with the solutions. Alone, the government cannot do alone, but is challenged to give a conducive environment for such investments to take place and count with the private sector, as is the biggest ally to account and address this big challenge, which is a climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Botswana, regional trade growth under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. How do you see Botswana's transport infrastructure supporting broader regional integration rather than simply serving national export routes?
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, harmonization is the missing key here. So for us, we see ourselves as a logistics hub. So 2 minutes is quite a short space of time to list the 186 projects that we've identified that could actually grow our economy. And 26 of those are just infrastructure projects. But I will just focus on the corridors themselves, the rail corridors. The Trans-Kalahari rail corridor, which links us to Namibia, is about 1,500 kilometers. The feasibility study is nearing completion. I think by June this year we'll be able now to go out there and look for a developer. Ticho Benin, we are working with Mozambique and Zimbabwe. I've been told that the financier has approved it. So again, we are looking into advancing that one. We have Mama Bulele Palale, which links us to South Africa. That one as well, like I said, I want to leave this place with a signed MOU. So I think with that, we are on our way to actually now becoming a logistics hub that we envision. So I think it's very, very important to have these regional links pass through our country, Because, you know, like they always say, when a railway line is as strong as its weakest link. At the moment, Botswana is the weakest link. So South Africa and Zambia and Congo cannot trade very, very well because we miss such a link. So if we develop the Mosetseka Zungula, Livingston, now it becomes a complete link. Then these three countries and beyond can now start trading. So that is the kind of influence or potential influence we have on the region, and we are working so hard to actually get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eswatini, transport systems often rely on strong coordination between different agencies, neighboring countries and private operators, local policies and regional policies to keep things moving. How does Eswatini ensure effective coordination so that transport systems operate as an integrated whole? And please try to keep to the 2 minutes.
Thank you. For us in Eswatini, we believe in complementarity of all the efforts that are being carried out throughout the region. I think as an outcome of this conference, I think we just need to get together and see how we can maximize on the different initiatives that we are having in the region. In the aviation sector, for example, there is the bilateral air service agreements and that we need to have. So instead of some airlines maybe competing with each other, we could complement, with the bigger airlines, with the bigger bellies, same thing with rail, same thing with road infrastructure, and same thing with access to seaports, so that we open up all the infrastructure that we have in the region for use by everyone else. Of course, paying for the cost of using those infrastructure. I think for me that's the major takeaway from this, to say let's complement each other. I think there's quite a lot that's happening in the region. Thank you.
So on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much to the ministers. I'm going to give you 1 minute each to close. And again, thank you. Tanzania, thank you. 1 minute.
Okay, thank you for listening and for the opportunity that was given to me and my government and my country to air out what are we doing in our country. And so far, this investment is important in our country. I would like to urge and call upon investors who are in this house and others, come and invest in Tanzania. The environment is very conducive. When you come to Tanzania, you'll be assured to get profit. You'll be assured of security. You'll be assured of supernormal profit. Come and invest in railway system, aviation, port operations, and others. And for sure, you will not regret. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mozambique?
Thank you. Thank you very much. The future of, allow me to say, as concluding notes, that the future transport in Africa will be decided by the choices that we make today. In investment, governance, be it innovation, inclusion, and sustainability. In a context where logistical efficiency and regional connectivity are decisive factors for economic growth, and not competitiveness, but complementarity between the nations. And I would like to emphasize that we've heard from His Excellency, the President, the command. We are going to make sure that we take what we've received as from all the discussions that we've had today and in the coming days, to us with very with a huge responsibility, in order to enable us to take whatever we have from paper to actual implementation. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Earlier today, we were told that if you want to get rich, you should build a road. I'm saying, if you want to get rich, come to Botswana. come to Botswana, and all rail players, all stakeholders of rail, this is an opportunity to come make a difference. For us, we are not just chasing infrastructure that is modern climate resilience, but we are in the business of changing people's lives. So I urge you to come to visit Botswana. We are the safest bet. Credit-wise, we are safe. You can actually put your money in us, and I bet you get your money's worth. And also with the rail corridors that we are planning to develop, they are going to be a game changer. So seize this opportunity, get your passport ready, come to Botswana. Thank you.
Thank you. What I would like us to live with here is that Eswatini is actually ready to provide that missing link to ensure efficiency in transportation of commodities from South Africa, Botswana, DRC into the major ports in Southern Africa, being Richards Bay and Maputo. We are ready to sign joint planning commissions with the respective countries, and so that we can start working right away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ministers. It's been a great pleasure and honour to host you. A round of applause for the Ministers, please.
Honored guests, my cheap watch says we can have a leg stretch, drink some coffee, and come back here at 15:45. 3:45. It is 10 minutes. We went a little bit over, but I'm sure we can claw it back. That's why I'm saying leg stretch and not mentioning any other thing. I told you.
Nhlanhla Ofanta, please come up front. Nhlanhla Ofanta, please come up front.
I don't know where. Nhlanhla? Paparazzi?
Lost and found. It belongs to Musidi Kweli from Limpopo.
Department photographers, communications. Is that time? It is that time. Don't forget, 15:45, we should be back here and we continue. And also don't forget, SADC is open for business.
Can you announce that, Mr. Mkhwanyama? Announce, maybe we are ready to try on.
Oh. Musidi. Lost and found, Musidi Kwili. I've got a bag that looks like a laptop or an iPad bag that unfortunately I cannot open. Please come to me at the front and collect it. Musidi wa Kwili akitsike mang. There are many people coming now. I don't know who is. Mosidi Lahut. No, she's going to get it. Guests, please help me to congratulate Musidi. She got her bag back.
it's all the same. Some things never change. It's all the same. Some things never change. It's all the same. Some things never change. I couldn't stop and say no. It's all the same. You won't take the blame, even when you are blowing up. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save enough. Oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save enough. Oh my, you're my broken love. So come on, let me show you how.
Honored guests, can we move to our seats now? Prasant, can we go to our seats now? When I call them by the names. Those that I know, I'm going to call them by name. Can we start? Time is gone, colleagues. We are going to start. Where's my moderator? We are going to start now. Moderator for the next session. Okay. Moderator, okay. Honored guests, we are starting now. Merci. Obrigado.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to take your seats. And this last session has two parts, which will hopefully keep us not only awake after heavy lunch and interactions, but also engaged. And this two-part session covers a very important subject. One is, how do we adapt? How does South Africa adapt to the changing supply chains and disruptions that we see? And this subject would have been relevant 6 months ago, but even more so today. And this will be followed by a short panel discussion on the implications. And then the final part for the day looks at the potential for technology, the role of transport in an uncertain and digitized world. So just to get us in the frame of mind for the discussion, I would like to invite the Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Park Tao, who is going to give us an opening brief. And this opening brief lays out South Africa's vision for how the industrial policy of South Africa interlinks with logistics and transport. Mr. Tao is a former member of the Executive Council and has had a role in many aspects of development of South Africa, from the rural aspects to urban development to the environment, and he holds a master's in public management. So we'll give attention to Minister Tao as he gives us these scene-setting remarks.
Thank you very much to our moderator. Allow me to greet and acknowledge our host, Minister Chrissy, Deputy Minister Hlengwa, all visiting ministers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. When the moderator spoke, I felt a bit of pressure because he was saying I should try and keep you awake after a heavy lunch, which is never an easy task for me to keep people awake after lunch. I can't blame myself, but sometimes I see them dozing off and I don't know why. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this discussion from the point of view of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Indeed, this important conversation on the impact of global transport and supply chain networks on South Africa's competitiveness and the role of special economic zones, logistics hubs and freight villages in driving transport-led growth is important. The global trading system is shifting, supply chains are becoming more regional, more resilient, and more sustainability-driven. We experienced a lot of these changes during the COVID period where global supply chains were significantly disrupted and redefined. We anticipate that given the Middle East crisis or war, these disruptions are likely to increase, placing greater degrees of pressure on the need for improving our regional logistics and value chains, and supply chains rather, so that we're able to, one, maintain levels of resilience that would be required going forward, but also increase our competitiveness. Now, we all know the challenges, and this conference is indeed intended, amongst others, to deal with those challenges, ranging from port congestion, declining rail capacity, high logistic costs, and fragmented spatial planning. These constraints directly undermine our export performance and erode investor confidence. And this is precisely why, as government, we've placed logistics reforms and the Reimagined Special Economic Zones program at the center of our economic strategy. I'm sure during the day you've been listening to and participated in panels focusing on the role of third-party access to the rail system, the introduction of national ports authorities with independent oversight, and fast-tracking infrastructure upgrades at key export corridors and terminals. On our side, in terms of special economic zones, we've been focusing on increased strengthening of governance in the special economic zones with clearer performance standards, national oversight, and a shift to credible, professionally run zone operators, but also aligning our special economic zones infrastructure with logistics planning, ensuring that these zones are directly integrated into ports, airports, and strategic corridors. If you go through the list of special economic zones, you'd realize the extent to which they are integrally linked and integrated into the logistics networks. This would include the OR Tambo Special Economic Zone. It will include the Dube Trade Port, Kucha, Saldanha, and the list goes on, where special economic zones are anchored on our ability to trade and move goods into the country and out of the country. As the DTIC, we have recently developed a new SEZ, an industrial parks model, which is aimed at accelerating regional industrial development using spatial initiatives. The new model introduces, amongst others, strong private sector participation in the development and/or operations of special economic zones and industrial parks. Integration into the MSME, or rather integration of MSMEs into the SEZ value chains, joint planning, and development of all spheres of government. It's also about strong linkages between special economic zones and industrial parks, and the trade corridors linked to rail, roads, and port networks are integrated to increase and diversify our value-added exports. The reimagined SEZ model moves us away from standalone industrial parks towards globally competitive industrial ecosystems, zones with fit-for-purpose infrastructure, serviced land, and predictable regulatory environments. These reforms are designed to reduce investor risk, shorten turnaround times, and enable export-oriented development. As we integrate SEZs with logistics hubs and freight villages, we are building platforms that allow South African firms to plug into global supply chains whilst positioning the country as a regional gateway for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Amongst others, we've initiated programs that are looking at regional integration from a practical point of view. We've recently signed a partnership agreement with Mozambique and the Port of Maputo operator DP World on the establishment of a cross-border SEZ linking the Nkomazi Special Economic Zone to the Port of Maputo. This initiative will create cross-border value chain integration between our two countries. The N4 corridor and rail network access will be a critical enabler for trade links between the two countries and the rest of the world. I should say, Minister, that we've also been saying to colleagues, you can't just talk about Nkomazi, SEZ, and the Maputo port. We must also be talking about Eswatini as part of the regional integration that we're talking about. So when we're talking cross-border SEZs, this presents a great opportunity. And we're saying to colleagues in Transnet, it's not just about shunting yards and those sort of things. It's about integrating value chains, and that should be part of the objectives that we achieve. The new cross-border initiative that the department will be working on in the new financial year is the South Africa-Zimbabwe cross-border anchoring using the Musina Makaro SEZ in Limpopo as the anchor. The Musina Makaro SEZ is strategically located as a gateway into the African continent. If properly conceptualized, well supported and implemented, this could translate into a critical regional node in the north of the country, playing not just a logistics role and a special economic development role, but also that of anchoring new development nodes in the northern part of the country. This could indeed be the biggest logistics hub for the rest of the continent. Let me conclude by saying that an announcement on the designation of Fetako Mutubatse is pretty much will be made imminently, whilst the Bujanala SEZ, which has been so long promised, will also be finalized soon. Let me stray for a few seconds, not minutes, and say, global supply chains are already experiencing the impact of the war in the Middle East. The timelines to respond are not going to wait for government-designed processes of RFI, RFQ, RF this and the other. We are going to have to make decisions, working with industry at a much faster pace to ensure that we limit the impact on ourselves and our sister countries on the continent. If we're not going to get supplies of certain goods and products from the Middle East, where will we find those? If indeed we're going to require integration of food value chains, logistics value chains, and so on, with lesser reliance on those that have been exporting these products into various parts of the continent, who will initiate those? We can't wait to be hungry to solve those problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Tao, for laying out the government's strategy and policy regarding this link between industries and logistics. Let me now invite the panel to reflect on this subject. I would like to invite to the platform Advocate Michelle Phillips, who is Group CEO of Transnet, Mr. Lionel October, who is Executive Director for the Industrial Zones Program at the IDC, and Dr. Mike Masiapato, who is leading the Border Management Authority, and he has very broad experience in some of the issues that we want to discuss. Please welcome them to the panel discussion. So as they come to the platform, there's so many seats here. It's better if you sit very closer to us. Thank you. So this panel is probably, it is not often that they sit together, the CEO of Transnet, IDC, and Border Management Authority. But the reason why we have these three distinguished experts here is because of their backgrounds and the topic that we are discussing. We want to explore the issue of uncertainty. How do South Africa's supply chains deal with disruptions? And as we were saying earlier, this topic would be relevant 6 months ago, but even more so of what we see happening within the last couple of weeks. The issues with the turmoil in the Middle East and Iran, the tariffs, COVID, and coupled with all these geopolitical issues is the clear impact of climate change, which we have seen on the dwindling water volumes in the Panama Canal, the disruption coming from technology. So in the context of these changes and the impacts on South Africa, we would like to discuss a couple of questions that sort of bring to the fore how South Africa's approach to supply chains can be adjusted. And I'll start with Advocate Michelle Phillips. She took over Transnet at a time when there was a deep crisis, 2024, and successfully implemented this 18 months recovery plan, which has really put her at the forefront of complexity and how to deal with supply chains. So if I may just put it to you, Advocate Michelle Phillips, looking back over the last couple of months, what would you say has been the single most disruptive impact on the supply chains of South Africa as on your day-to-day job?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think for the longest time, people said that we were the problem. We were disrupting everyone. But I think, certainly over the period, we've done, I think, quite well in stabilizing the network, stabilizing the performance, and as well as, the integration and the collaboration with our customers and the private sector generally. So I think that's helped. Right now, of course, I think the single most factor or event that we are all concerned with is the Middle East crisis and the war that is currently going on. And I think that, what is important for supply chains generally, one, we have to do the work, but the investment in the network is of utmost importance if we want to withstand the kind of shocks that we've been experiencing. We've had a few things that have hit us over the period. We know about the weather. we've really been battered. But with the mitigations that we've put in place, we've been able to get back up. Right now, we're all planning on how we're going to deal with possible fuel shortages in the country because our operations is dependent on it. So, we hope that we are going to be robust enough to withstand this, the impact of generally the geopolitics.
Very good. Thanks very much for that. What are you doing to prepare for this? I was reading on the news that many of the vessels that would traditionally take the route through the Red Sea are now routing through the south. And this is sort of distorting the supply chains and the shipping routes. It presents both an opportunity but also a risk for the country.
It's an interesting one, right? Because we all obviously look for those opportunities where we can exploit and do the best that we can. So in the last year, as an example, we've seen the diversions to evade what was happening at the Red Sea. The challenge with that, though, is that, and I know I've seen some of the big shipping lines in the room, is that when you divert and you're coming along the Cape of Good Hope, it would be good that you bring South African destined cargo. Because that's when we can exploit the opportunities, not just only on bunker fuels and the like. We also want to be moving commodity, right? Now, what we saw in the last year was that, firstly, the weather did not support us much. When the vessels came through South African terminals, we had to provide refuge for those vessels because most of them were in distress. And in order to do that, we had to take vessels off working berths to allow for vessels in distress to be safe. And that then causes further problems for those vessels that are expected with South African destined cargo. So, for me, the investment in rail, the investment in ports, and continued investment in that so that we create more capacity is of utmost importance because we are not able to work the vessels that are destined for South Africa as well as those opportunistic ones. So we need some redundancy in the system so that we can get the supply chains still robust and still able to perform efficiently.
Thank you very much. That's a very important insight from the front lines. And we can see how busy you have been this time, going through a reform process, turning the institution around while also facing the tailwinds and headwinds of the global disruptions. Thanks very much for those insights, Michelle. Next to Michelle is Dr. Mike Masiapato, and he is among the few people who has seen the confluence between the South Africa's security architecture and its relationship also to civilian infrastructure and logistics. When I was reading the profile, you have 2 doctoral degrees. Usually people do 1 and retire. He's certainly a man who has a determination in law, in public management. And so this discussion of disruptions brings to the fore the impact of security and the need for the relationship between civilian and security architecture to work harmoniously together. What measures have you seen or do you think should be taken by government to cope with these constantly changing disruptions? Some natural, some global, some domestic, regional. What are your views on how to cope with this?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Doc, for the opportunity, and the ministers in the room, and the rest of the colleagues. Yes, indeed, I suppose one of the fundamental issues that has been done in the South African context with, I would say, the establishment of the Border Management Authority, which brought in a multiplicity of disciplines within one platform, was one of the most fundamental, I would say, achievements in terms of ensuring that it is very much a bit easier and also a bit much, in a way, seamless on the basis of ensuring the movement of trade between jurisdiction. But at the same time, ensuring the better integration of various disciplines that in many platforms are being done by various structures. And ultimately, in those particular instances, it becomes a bit difficult even to achieve full coordination. But of course, with the integration that has been done within the South African context, from where one sits, it has been able to bring some bit of seamless interface in terms of the manner in which most of the issues then has to be done at the port level. Therefore, I can also indicate that for us to be able to deal with a multiplicity of disruptions, particularly in terms of our land ports in particular, obviously is the issue of perfecting business continuity platforms, but also be able to do your risk management modeling ahead of time so that you are able to preempt the activities that could easily come through and ultimately disrupt the activities on the ground. And once that has fairly been achieved, then it is better for the purposes of ensuring that the movement therefore becomes a bit seamless, but at the same time we are then able to ensure that even as you are to do various functions that has to be done in facilitating the movement of goods in particular, it becomes more easier instead of it being a complicated endeavor.
So this digitalization of information and bringing it together helps to improve supply chain efficiency, but also carries risks, right? In terms of hackers and bioterrorism and all of that. How are you dealing with that, given the need to have information available to supply chains, but also protect the supply chains and the nation's logistics and industrial architecture?
Yeah, I suppose the main fundamental point is the realization of a single window, which is something that has been fairly, I would say, advocated for a number of years. I mean, if you were to think about the World Customs Organization, had always been advancing the realization of a single window, firstly in one jurisdiction, but also interjurisdictionally, being able to share data ahead of time about the movement of freight between jurisdictions. That becomes very much fundamental on the basis of ensuring that you are able to be appraised, of the kind of goods that are actually destined your way, and ultimately be able to make sure that you prepare ahead of time so that when the goods arrive at the port, you do not have a lot of bureaucratic activities that needs to be done for the purposes of its movement between jurisdictions. Otherwise, one of the fundamentals, and I suppose this is one of the key issues, and I always give a very practical example, when people say sometimes it becomes a bit risky in terms of sharing data, especially interjurisdictionally. And I suppose in many instances, people talk to issues about national security, for example. And I always say that if South Africa, for example, is to be exporting bananas into Zimbabwe, as an example, and on that basis, we are able to share data in an advanced manner with the Zimbabweans and say, we have 5 bananas that are destined your way. On that particular basis, they will then be able to prepare on their side in terms of receipt of those bananas, and ultimately, when it arrives on the ground, then they are able to better facilitate it. And now, if we talk about possible risks around the sharing of data interjurisdictionally, my question will then be, what is national security about bananas in the first instance? So there is nothing about national security on bananas, or even if you are to export computers, or even to receive computers from another jurisdiction. So for me, we should be able to agree that we implement a single window model, share data at the end, and by the way, we are at advanced stages working together with our colleagues from South African Revenue Service that we are going to be achieving single declaration for the better movement of goods in between ourselves and our neighboring countries so that we can achieve regional integration.
Thank you very much. That must be music to the ears of the ministers who are visiting from the SADC countries, given the whole discussion we had on regional integration earlier. Very, very pragmatic. So I come to Lionel now. You have been really deeply involved in the establishment of special economic zones and hubs. And one of the lessons that we drew from the first panel this morning was to make sure that this is coordinated. Make sure that special economic zones are coordinated, can cluster activities, generate jobs. And I put this to both you and Minister Tao maybe to comment on. This convergence between industrial policy and logistics policy, what are the constraints in a turbulent world that we're living in? What would you say?
No, thanks for that. You know, as Minister Parks Tau said, you can't separate economic growth. You can't separate special economic zones and logistics hubs. It's really, because transport is the enabler, SEZs is what is really an engine of growth. So as you can see, all of our SEZs, as mentioned by the Minister, Richards Bay, Kucha, East London, OR Tambo, all of them are either situated next to a port or airport. And I think what we find in South Africa now is the collaboration. Now, I think since 18 months ago when Minister Creasy, Minister Parks came in, we've seen really a massive change in the culture, but also in the integration now between government departments, between transport and the SEZs. So, for example, in OR Tambo SEZ, which Minister Parks Tau started, there you see companies. There's about 30 companies in the special economic zones in Gauteng now. There's a company called Into Foods, which in the evening they would complete their production of food and fresh produce. In the next morning it goes to OR Tambo Airport. It gets to London, and then the next morning it is on the shelves of Marks and Spencer's and Harrods and so on. So, but there's really, and it's the same thing at Dubai Trade Port. We have an advanced, really world-class customs clearing service between the SEZ and the airport. So that integration has helped. And as I said, so SEZs and transport is really one concept. Thank you.
It's a skill and capacity issue. Well, you know, we have been dealing a lot with the diversification of trade partners as a result of the impact of decisions made by, amongst others, the US that impact significantly on our trading environment, considering that we're an economy that's more than 50% linked to trade. And would want to increase that, considering that we would want access to these markets. But as we negotiate trade agreements and gain access to particular markets, you need to get your goods to those markets. Now, if we don't have alignment and integration with logistics and transport, we might be negotiating without providing the necessary support to enable that trade. So it's a real practical issue about how you need to ensure that you link logistics and industrial reforms in a manner that is complementary to each other. And sometimes the disruption is on the demand side. So if you think about it, the US Section 232 tariffs on steel and auto has impacted what we can get into the US market for those goods. Somebody has been moving those goods in that market, and they are significantly disrupted. You need to reroute where they need to be able to supply goods and services. The European Union, which is currently the biggest user of our steel from an export point of view, has indicated that they are increasing steel tariffs by 50%. What are the implications from a logistics and transport point of view? What does it mean in terms of these goods that have had to go into these markets? And that's just on the demand side. The reality is, as demand changes, you need to be able to position yourself. What we don't do very well is actually when we sit with these challenges to say to our colleagues in transport, you know, this is the most immediate reality of the implications of these decisions, and these are issues that need to be factored in. On the other hand, as state-owned enterprises, if we already know that, in fact, steel is a particular challenge that we're going to have, we have China overcapacity, reduced demand from the EU and the US, who is going to buy the steel? When we're talking about localization, local manufacturing, and local demand creation, because in reality, if we decide that we're going to import these steel-based products when we have local capacity, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And we have to make policy decisions on how to mitigate that sort of impact, because we can't be oblivious to the reality that the demand for a particular product is going to reduce, and we can't exacerbate that problem. We should actually be coordinating and aligning amongst ourselves on how we utilize our own capability to be able to intervene, then form the necessary partnerships with the companies across borders, and be able to secure our own supplies and create our own demand on the African continent in line with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Thanks.
You touch on a very important subject, yeah? This need to be agile, adaptive, in a system that is not designed like that. I don't know any government that has been designed to be agile and adaptive globally. And it's not easy, right? Things change almost overnight. So how to put in place the mechanisms that all parts of government can respond to these kind of changes in real time, not only from an institutional point of view, but also budgeting and financing is going to be one of the critical challenges going forward. I don't know if either Minister Tao or Dr. Mike or Lionel want to comment on this particular part of making sure all of government is responsive.
Bureaucracies in their very nature are not agile. Yeah. They are by design not agile. Yeah. But I suspect that we don't have a choice but to make decisions that create agility in certain instances, in a structured and managed way, because you can't afford abuses in the public sector. And there are governments that have actually started to introduce that level of agility. So I think we need to go out and look for those best practices. I mean, we always say, sometimes we link it to whether this is a democracy or not, they can make decisions. But those are issues about agility, about adaptability, about creating alignment of policy intervention. Nobody stops us from aligning between government departments, policies, procurement pipelines, financing mechanisms. Nobody's stopping us. We're stopping ourselves. We create those bottlenecks when in fact we can create opportunities for alignment across the board. And I think we simply just don't have the choice anymore.
Yes. Thank you. That's a very bold statement, yeah? Nobody stops us. So we stop ourselves. That's fantastic. Very, very bold. Let me open for a few questions from the audience and reactions before we move on. Any questions on this aspect of agility of supply chains, disruptions? Please. Can we get the mics? Just be brief and to the point, and if you like, you can direct a question to a particular panelist.
Thank you. Lungile Mapete is my name. I'm from ATC. My question is with regard to government agility. What are the time frames that we need to consider to bring government agility, taking into consideration that we practically take a lot of years, 5 to 14 years to pass legislation, except for finance legislation?
We'll take one or two other questions, or... Okay, I suppose there's only one person who can answer this on the panel. Minister Tao.
I think that's very impressive turnaround from having the conversation to setting a timeline. It's quite difficult. Let me say, I mean, you know, we spent the better part of this morning sitting with the development finance institutions in our department, the Industrial Development Corporation, National Empowerment Fund, the Export Credit Insurance Corporation, looking at what is the pipeline of projects and initiatives that are in the ecosystem that require financing that would accelerate growth and development. And a lot of these are actually public sector projects that need processing. Some of them are certainly private sector. We've looked at the funding pipeline. There are colleagues here that might be excited to know that we're talking about raising finance for them. But the reality is, if you've created that pipeline, the decision-making should be easier. So if you've solved for the financing, if you've solved for the procurement, if you've solved for the technical, the issues then should be able to fall into place much easier than, in fact, we do think. So we are thinking about it, but answering a question that says, I am giving a timeline. I'm sure Minister Chris will be unimpressed and won't invite me to the next event. Thank you.
It's very pragmatic, yeah? Okay, so we started this discussion on the premise that the era of cheap, frictionless supply chains globally, as it used to be for the last several decades, sort of is changing. It's a major structural change globally, and all countries are having to deal with these frequent disruptions. Just as final thoughts, and I'll ask all of you if you could comment on that. Looking forward, what would be the single intervention that you think would have the biggest impact on stabilizing South Africa's supply chains? Let's start with Lionel at the end.
Yeah, thank you. I think the big, as you said, trade is growing and intra-Africa trade is growing, and we need to diversify our supply chains. I think the big one, our challenge, as you know, when Minister Parks Tau came in, he also said, besides our coastal and our port SEZs, it's the concept of the cross-border SEZ. And those are rail-based SEZs. The one in Komazi SEZ, Komati Port, which links Mozambique, Eswatini, and South Africa, Mpumalanga province. And then the one in the north, which is Beitbridge, Musina Mokado SEZ, and the Zim. And I think what we're going to have to do is, and it was spoken about in the panel earlier, is that once you set up, and with a border management agency now, you need an integrated system between the 3 or 2 countries, cross-border in terms of clearance, in terms of customs control. And I think, and we are for the first time now setting up those institutional mechanisms. We've signed with Mozambique, and just for the minister, we also, Eswatini, we're hosting Eswatini at the IDC tomorrow. So that cross-border is taking place, but I think that would be the challenge, is to increase the harmonization and coordination now at the cross-border level. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intervention. Dr. Masiapato?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think the first thing that we can fairly agree on, if you were to look in the South African context, if we were to stabilize the supply chains, especially interjurisdictional movement on land, the first thing that has been very much a constraint, obviously, has been the infrastructural layout in terms of our ports, and I think of our land borders in particular. And I suppose the main reason for that is that the ports, as we speak, had been fairly inherited from the apartheid past. And obviously, at the time, when the ports were fairly constructed, they were mainly for security and not necessarily the large movement of goods or even the large movement of people. So that has been the biggest constraint that we've actually been dealing with. I mean, if you were to look at Beitbridge, it will be sitting just on the river. If you were to look at Groblersbrug, for example, you have a bridge which is only a one-vehicle bridge in a way. And now we have a lot of cargo that is basically supposed to be crossing there. Then you have to do stop and go, in a way. If you look at Libombo, for example, it's sitting on top of the mountain. And all these ports were basically built for security by the apartheid government. It is for that reason that the first biggest thing that needed to be done was to make sure that the ports get redesigned, redeveloped, for the purposes of being able to handle the current volumes as they were. It is for that reason that as we speak, you will know that we are at advanced stages to effectively announce the public-private partnership to redesign and redevelop some of our top land commercial ports. We'll be doing that at Beitbridge, we'll be doing that at Libombo, to Mozambique, we'll be doing that at Oshuk to Eswatini, Maseru Bridge, as well as Fixback to Lesotho, as well as Kofontaine to Botswana. And of course, the second iteration will include Groblersbrug, which is now one of the biggest north-south corridor player, as it were. So that is the first thing. So once that has been done, then it will basically open up the movement. As you will know, part of what we need to be doing, obviously, is to create various lanes, for various move. There will be lanes that will be open fairly for the movement of freight, and of course, there will be separation from people as well as, small vehicles and all of that. That is the first part. Then the second part is the realization of a non-stop border when it comes to the movement of freight. We do not necessarily have to have trucks standing at the ports as it has traditionally been the way. And that is why, working together with our immediate neighborhood, we've already actually engaged on that. And legislatively, the one-stop border post for the movement of people is already advanced. As we speak now, it is being looked at in Parliament. And once it is actually signed by the President, it will then create a port as a common control zone where we'll be able to co-locate so that we have a single stop between jurisdictions instead of a double stop. So all of these things put together, especially the rolling out now, as we speak, of the authorized economic operators, for those that are moving freight that are to be enrolled in the AEO, they will not necessarily have to stop at the port. So once we achieve that and we then automate a lot of activities, that is where the resilience will kick in and we will be able to have freight moving without much hindrance.
This is fantastic. Thank you very much for this. In December, I was in Mozambique and I saw what happens at the border with the trucks. It's unbelievable, those queues. So this is very, very good. This is music to my ears as an African. Thank you very much. Michelle, final thoughts on this?
I think before I go to the constraints, I think it's important that we end with what we actually have going for us. And I'll speak about South Africa. Number one, we are the most industrialized economy in Africa. We have one of the continent's most extensive freight rail systems. We are strategically positioned along the world's busiest east-west trade routes. I think certainly a standout feature of our logistics system is the integrated nature of our rail, port, road, and pipeline infrastructure. So there's a lot going for us that we need to exploit. But as you know, global competitiveness is around reliability, cost efficiency, and integration of supply chains. And if I were to focus on any specific, if you gave me the choice of which one, I would have to say that we have to continue. Firstly, the momentum that we've gained thus far, we have to continue to push that. But the continued investment to ensure reliability of this network system, both port and rail, I think is absolutely critical for us to move forward. But I do want to pick on this one about agility. And I always get into trouble because I'm challenged by the fact that we are expected to run enterprise as enterprises, but I don't think necessarily that we are agile enough when it comes to the constraints that we are bound by. So I do think that there's a lot of work, Minister, that needs to go into how, as state-owned enterprises, we are in fact better enabled to run our businesses as enterprises, as the state, as companies first, so that we can compete meaningfully with whomever comes onto our network. Thanks.
It's a consistent drumbeat. Invest, invest, invest. And so last word to you, Minister Tao, on this panel.
I think that intra-Africa trade is at the center of what we should be driving. And I think it is important if you look at it on the basis of what's happening on the continent in terms of growth, in terms of infrastructure investments, in terms of extractive policies by other countries that exploit our resources. And the reality that, in fact, by simply just improving intra-Africa trade and addressing the bottlenecks, one-stop border posts, infrastructure capability, special economic zones across borders, we're able to resolve these problems. You know, if we didn't run out of time at the office to come here, would have been a discussion that talks about implementing an in-principle agreement we've reached with Egypt. It's a very simple agreement. It says, we will establish a special economic zone dedicated to SEZ and logistics park dedicated to product from Egypt in South Africa, in a port in South Africa. They will create a similar facility for us in Egypt. We will create the necessary logistics linkages. The advantage on their side is they say, well, we have our own shipping company, so we can contribute the first vessel that starts this work as we evolve. So we're talking practically about how do we solve problems. And then we have a discussion about, well, as the two countries, not the only countries, but as the two countries in the room at the time, we say, well, if we're talking about north-south linkages, Cape to Cairo, if Egypt takes responsibility for the northern part of the corridor and South Africa anchors the southern part of the corridor, there's nothing that stops us from getting it right. So it's a discussion we started with our colleagues in Egypt. We'll have to bring in a lot of partners. We'll have to bring in the right people. But you're solving for a problem of logistics and corridor development on the corridor and creating those linkages that you require. So countries must take up the responsibility themselves to say this is what we can anchor. And the ambition on both sides between Egypt and South Africa has been, well, we can anchor the south, you anchor the north, and let's get this thing done. Let's stop talking too much. Just get these things done. Thank you very much.
That's a very nice and optimistic point to conclude, and thank you very much to the panel. We are not expecting complete answers, but to spark the conversation and to touch on areas that are important. And thanks very much for sharing your insights. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
When they say panels is nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
Sure.
So the final panel for the day, and I promise you will finish on time, talks about transport for tomorrow and the role of transport in a digitized world. Let me invite Ofense Madisha to come to the platform. Ofense is the head of public policy at Uber, South Africa. Also, Joubert Silias, who is the chairperson of the Truckers for Unity South Africa. And finally, Dr. Mateta Makunyama, who is from CSIR. Welcome. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us on this panel, this final panel, gentlemen. So the subject, transport for tomorrow in South Africa, the role of transport in an uncertain and digitized world, was selected specifically because it allows us to look not at the present, but at the future. As it is, the future is approaching very quickly. Lots of technologies are changing very quickly, and these have a huge impact on the transport and logistics system, but also coming back to our theme of transport that is contributes towards inclusive growth, social transformation, and sustainability of the country. I wanted to just put a number of questions to you that helps us to contextualize this in terms of technologies. When you think about the disruptions from a technology point of view, what major shifts do you see happening in the digitized transport system? Let me start with you, Ofense.
If I can find the mic during the grave shift. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this opportunity to engage. I'd say a couple of things. The extent to which the transport sector is going through a digitization process is not a surprise. Most of us are quite familiar with the shift from the Internet of Things to the mobility or X as a service. And now we're seeing an age where there's a bit of artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and other forms of interventions that are overlapping this transition. So we're anticipating 3 concrete shifts that some are already seeing. First of all, is the change in the business models. So previously, we would regulate sectors that have fixed routes, traditional employment models, and a very direct kind of market. Today, you're dealing with business models that are so diverse and that integrate technology, institutions, and supply chains into one parallel ecosystem. The second shift is in relation to asset ownership. There's a huge transition, particularly when it comes to OEMs, where they're starting to think of themselves more as mobility providers to some extent, to essentially to alleviate the issues around vehicle ownership, parking, congestion, and other underutilization issues, because most vehicles are parked most of the time. And the third shift is essentially where you're seeing a change in the workplace or the manner in which people work. So on one side, you've got customers that are now working remotely, so that are joining this meeting online. They're not commuting to work as often as they used to. That's one tidal shift. The other tidal shift is related to the business models and how they change the way people work and interact with the transportation and mobility sectors as service providers, whether in passenger or freight sectors. There's this disaggregated shift that I don't think we're anticipating. I mean, as an example, the platform economy has generated about 4 million earning opportunities across different sectors, whether it's Airbnb, Google, offline and online work. And what's happening is that in the transport sector, that shift is really permeating into our space. Those are the 3 major shifts that we can observe.
Thank you very much. And which aspects of the transport system do you think they are most likely to disrupt the most?
Everything. Yeah, like, so think about it this way. We used to think of a consumer as somebody who's just consuming a single product. Whereas today, a consumer is a producer at roughly at around the same time. So at first you could see it in social media, but now that's becoming something that's so transient. Freight forwarders, for instance, they would basically absorb letters of intent, or various types of contracts, break them and distribute them. Now you've got technology services that essentially optimize that, but they still require the human oversight because there's a certain level of creativity that's required to coordinate these pieces. Then you have the education training sectors, right? So there are a number of sectors that are going to go through this evolution, but I think the most immediate disruption will be in the payments and financing side of things. And then on the other side, the regulation and compliance side. That is going to be where I think the biggest disruptions will emerge from.
Thank you very much for those opening comments. Gilbert, what would you say the shifts are from your perspective, especially on the trucking and freight side of things?
I think what's going to happen in the next year or so, and what we want to happen at least, we've been in a firefighting mode most of the time. We're 90% of the time in a reactive mode. We wait for something to happen, and then we're going to fix it. By the time we fix it, it's too late, there's new technology. So we have to go more into a predictive mode. And I know it was mentioned in the previous panel that we're talking about, especially from a trucking point of view, cross-border, a one-stop border post. Well, we were actually looking for a non-stop border post where we can go across. So what we are busy with, and I think maybe I must bring it back a little bit. We've been hearing for so long, and in this whole today, talking about supply chains. And we use the word so much, but we don't have a supply chain at the moment. We have a bunch of links lying in the bucket, loose. They're not touching each other. And we all know what role we're supposed to play in the supply chain. From a shipper to a freight forwarder to a transporter, we're all linked, but we're not really linked. So when it comes to technology now, one of these links, maybe the transporters are thinking of something to do, what they can do new, but they're not connected to the next person. And that's what we were also talking about, the connectivity and the transformation across the supply chain. We have to start to be predictive and not reactive. We have to have a supply chain that's really linked. Everybody knows what their job is in this link, and we should try use the technology. And what we are currently busy with, it was just mentioned about the one-stop border. From a transporting point of view, specifically the transporters, we are looking on our own to start using digital seals, logs, that will be able to share data, because as soon as you have that, you have the information of the waybill, the manifest, the route from the truck leaves. I know it already. And we will be working in conjunction with customs to show them what we can do. This is information we have already when it leaves the depot. We can also predict how many trucks will be arriving at the border post, because we know they're coming now, because it's all digitized. So we are currently busy testing different types of technology that can do this. And so, yeah, so we think we want to go into predictive mode and get out of reactive mode. Thank you.
Thanks for those insights. And that is the use of blockchain technology, right, for tracing and tracking things that you're referring to, yeah?
Yeah, it is actually, every time we come to these conferences, there's a new technology out. It's blockchain, and then digital twins, and then GPS tracking, and now AI, all of them together.
Yeah.
We have to keep on using and to make the link stronger, because they're there. We have to use them. And yeah, so most of it's across. We have to use all of those technologies to make sure the information is reliable and it's available immediately.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Mateta, from your perspective, what do you see as major shifts, and which aspects of transport do you think will be disrupted the most?
Would like to think of the shifts as things that we want to see and make happen, as opposed to things that will happen to us, right? I come from the CSIR. A stone throw away, there's a place called Innovation Hub. And not so far away, there's Pretoria University. And then just around the corner there, there's Tshwane University of Technology. And then there's UNISA, University of South Africa. And then there's a Department of Transport, not far away from there. It's not, I think it's like a 10 kilometer radius. You ask yourself, what have we done in terms of creating that future, in terms of innovation, right? Creating startups. There's a place called Kendall Square in the United States, where Harvard and MIT and so forth are together. They indicate that they have created something like 1,400 startups. You ask yourself, what startups have we created as that 10 square kilometer of all of us, together? Very little to none. So collaboration, to me, is something that will shift the future, and it's something that we need to embrace. The president earlier talked about it several times, collaboration. So we need to instill collaboration. And one of the things that we have done as a CSIR, especially in the logistics sector, we've invested for the past 3 or 4 years in what we call the Logistics Observatory. We're going to be launching it in the next few weeks. That is a platform that allows for collaboration between various actors, regulators, planners, private sector and so forth, on the logistics, right? It's like the Weather Bureau of logistics. If I want to know what is likely to be happening in the next few months, years, and so forth, I would need to plug into that logistics observatory. A startup that needs to come in, instead of investing in this thing, they have something to plug in and play, right? The Transport Economic Regulator, instead of them investing in a whole new infrastructure on logistics observatory, they have something. But is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? We'd like that to happen. Collaboration will help us, get into the next, phase, step up a little bit more. So that's something that definitely we need to encourage more of. Collaboration, it needs to be visible. Yeah.
That's fantastic. The observatory is a very good idea, especially if it is accessible to everyone. Like you have these weather bureaus that different apps can be produced that provide the same information but for different audiences, but reliant on the same basic database. That's fantastic, and I hope that comes on stream much quicker than you actually say it will, yeah? I hope that does.
It's there. Our exhibition stand, you can have a sneak peek into
okay.
into
An
what is
appetizer.
coming.
Okay, thank you. So coming back to you, Fancy, now with these rapid changes in technology, what is required? Because the technology is changing faster than the enabling environment that can be provided. How do you square that?
So it's barely square, because what's happening is that a couple of things. The key message around the consumer base is that they need things to change, right? So customers typically will drive a change. And by customers, I'm talking about consumers, business customers, industry, etc., private sector. Public sector historically would play as an observer, right? And then they would decide at some point to intervene in a particular market, right? Now, to Minister Tau's point, we're entering a stage where, and I'd say this is going to continue, where you need a very dynamic and agile institutional environment that is data-driven, that is very precise, and that is also multidimensional. So I actually remember Prof. Kiran is here. There's some work on this multi-dimensional decision-making processes. That is the world that we're moving into in order to create an environment that is on paper as enabling as it is in reality. So the reason why I'm making this distinction is because we have a formal and a self-informed economy. The formal economy on paper, right, meets the requirements of the market. The self-informed economy in reality serves most of the market, or some of it in some sectors. And what we need to do, to Mateta's point, is we need to start working on enabling what is already happening on paper as much as it is happening in reality.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time, and we'll bring the audience to the conversation. But just a final question to all of you. One of the greatest fears that people have is that this rapid change in technology will further exacerbate inequality. And in a country like South Africa, where inequality was entrenched by a system, how do you make sure that the technology allows for a just transition where people can participate in the opportunity and not just be left further behind? And this is to all of you, can comment on it, and then we'll open up to the audience. Maybe starting with Dr. Mateta.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We have for a very long time in South Africa protected vested interests. If you look at 1930, that Motor Carrier Transport Act, it was protecting mines and railways. Later, it was about protecting buses, from minibus taxis. Now, minibus taxis say we want protection from e-hailing. So it's always about protecting vested interests. The customer has been left behind. So innovation should be about customer service, improving the experience of the customer, right? You want to see in the Transnet annual report issues around customer, satisfaction, how it's changing. In fact, the targets that the minister sometimes, puts on table, I would say you want to say this is how customer satisfaction will change over time, because these other things will come later. The tonnage and all that will come as a result of customer care, right? So you want to invest in understanding the customer better, connecting customers, that's what Offense said earlier, connecting customers better, serving customers better, right? So innovation around improving their connectivity customers have to different nodes. In fact, lastly, as I conclude, there's a theory, a model, Metcalfe's law, if you remember. Metcalf, not Mary Metcalf, the MEC, our former MEC of Education. Metcalf's law essentially says that the value of a network, the asset value and so forth of a network is equivalent to the quality, the square of the quality of connections between the nodes, right? So the more, almost exponential. So the better the quality of connections, the more value you can derive from the connections. So it means inversely, if there are poor connections, poor quality connections, we lose opportunities by almost an exponential amount, right? So it will be about connecting the individual customers, making sure that we build around customer needs over time, and not about protecting vested interests.
That's a point well made with scientific evidence. Thank you very much for that. Joubert?
Hi, yeah, I think what we must also look at the practical point. If everything gets digitized, I know the biggest fear lately is job losses. Who's not going to? I think specifically in the logistics field, if you look at it now, I don't know who's lately looked at any of the syllabus of if you're going to go study logistics. It drastically has to change. It is still maybe 5 years behind, where everybody's talking about AI and digitization. There's none of that in the logistics syllabus at the moment. And it's removed. So I think definitely there's a big gap and opportunity to bring in the new generation of AI and digitization and into the logistics field. But we have to change the syllabus. And we also have to move away a little bit from everybody have to go to university. We should start using the colleges more. And even to make it simple, this is not technology. In the current state with transporting, the biggest requirement at the moment is a diesel mechanic. I mean, we're not even talking about AI now. We don't have enough diesel mechanics. But very soon we're going to run out of AI specialists as well. So we have to very carefully look at what logistics means. Because a simple form of a truck running from where to where, even in the harbors, needs a diesel mechanic. And we don't have them. And they don't have to go to university. So we really start looking at the syllabus of the colleges and the universities, look at the new technologies, but also keep in mind we need some of the basic old technologies to keep this link going. Thank you.
That's very thought-provoking, yeah? Offense?
Just to ride on Hubert's point. So what technology has enabled essentially is a shift in the labor market. So there's typically the labor market required people to apply for jobs. Well, a company needs to advertise the job, people need to apply for it, and then you participate. And then when you participate, the firm will be the one that acquires the assets, and then you use those assets. What is happening now is that the capital itself is as close to your pocket as ever before. To an extent that there is a market where people are creating earning opportunities through the digital economy. So the barriers to entry are gone, access to the internet, laptops, cell phones, etc. Now that does a couple of things. On one hand, it can spark a whole new space of micro startups that are leveraging AI to develop technologies, but they still need the capacity, to Joubert's point, to manage the businesses behind this kind of work, right? Then on the flip side is then where you see these mega organizations or mega platforms that are now starting to streamline the way people work or economic participation. Now they're transitioning a lot of workers from informal sectors to digitized sectors. You'll tell me whether that's formal or not, but there's this huge transition that's taking place as we speak, and it applies across all kinds of sectors. You can find a mechanic on an app now. You can find a driver on an app now. You can find a cleaner on an app now. But the question is, are the services that are being provided accredited, certified, supported, trained, cared for, and sustainable, right? And so on the question of inequality, yes, there is the higher end of it where digital transformation for us day-to-day white-collar workers, we might potentially be at risk because of the nature of artificial intelligence and how it's deployed in the workplace. Then there is the industrial side of things, that where you basically gain a certain degree of automation that starts to erode the way in which the laborer participate in the market. And then there's the final bit where, to Gilbert's point, right, there's this what we call low-skilled, which would be high-value work that is crucial, that will basically come online because of the digital economy. So there's this duality that I think we need to manage, and that's essentially the crux of inequality at this stage. I would say if South Africa was to define its future, one, we would take on this committee. We have to take it on, the Transportation Committee. Secondly, we would describe the kind of workforce that we want to see active and participating in the economy. They might not all be employees. Right? They might just be people who are participating in the economy in a way that we can track, observe, and of course, enable.
Thank you very much. Those are really forward-looking thoughts on this topic. Could we open up to the audience for a few questions or comments? There's a hand in front.
Thank you. My question is directed to all the panelists. The regulatory environment, I think there's a need to do the review of the regulatory environment to enable this digital economy. Will you be in a position to just explain what kind of regulatory review that is necessary in as far as you are concerned in the space where you are operating to enable the digital economy? Thank you.
That's a good question. We'll take maybe one or two other questions, then we'll close the session. Yeah, there's a hand at the front here.
Sorted. Thank you, Ma. I don't know if I'm supposed to ask a question, but I'm doing it anyway. Dr. Matete spoke about collaborations very early in the presentations. And it's slightly not technology related, don't worry. I'm BBT, I was born before technology. So I'm allowed to talk about soft but very significant issues. Dr. Mateta, you talked about collaboration. You even talked about a radius where people are not coordinating but pursuing the same objectives. Now today we are here talking about the National Transport Conference. And so far so good, it is a success, thanks to everybody. 3 months from today, we will be called upon to a Southern African Transport Conference. So just so that it is not your own thing, Dr. Matet, I think maybe the panelists can talk about it. Why are we having so many conferences and talking, and then nothing happens thereafter? Why don't we start by seeing whether there are areas of convergence between these two conferences and take it from there? I hope I'm not going to lose my job. Thank you.
That's certainly food for thought. The fact that we have ministers from SADC means there was some thinking in that direction, which probably needs to be reinforced for the future. Okay, just a quick comment on the regulation, because this is something that is very, very important. Can regulation keep up with the change in technologies, and what does that look like? I give the first word to Fense.
Yes, I agree. So the only reason why regulation works the way that it does is because we're still operating in a political analog system. So essentially, if you want to go get your driver's license, you guys know the story, right? You'll find there's only one platform to actually produce this. Whereas on the flip side, the Department of, I think, Treasury and also the Presidency are working on what is called MyMzansi. So MyMzansi essentially digitizes government. Now they're going to digitize IDs, licenses, you know, your journey to find employment, etc. So and you have the ISA and so on. Now I'm mentioning this because if you include Stats SA and other data platforms, that entire identification ecosystem is an input into what we currently think is regulation. Regulation, if we want to see it move forward, we want to do maybe two things, basic things. One, there needs to be a stronger relationship between regulators and practitioners. So public and private sector collaboration is one thing, but not in the form of what we have now, public consultation. No, it has to be consultation with feedback, tracked, monitored, engaged in real time. Secondly, we need to digitize regulation. Now, this might sound like something that's far out into the future, but I want to talk about the legal profession. The legal profession basically designs code for how society works, right? Now, that code can be imputed and crafted in such a way that a contract, to your point, Hubert, a contract can be managed, a relationship between parties can be managed digitally. Why is it that from a regulatory front, with this logistics observatory, we're not in a situation where you can basically say, well, we can observe that there is too many players in the market, there's a little bit of competition here, the market is inefficient, etc. By design, not necessarily through the traditional formats of legislation, right? So you could have a bot that basically manages and administers the status of which, the extent to which policy crafting is applied. And that's the gap that at least we see. So in my space, in the e-hailing context or public transport and freight, it's very simple. You have a situation where you can join a platform tomorrow and start driving, but you're going to be faced with so many different things. You don't know how to register your own company. You don't know how to manage your finances. You've got an asset that needs to be controlled. There are limitations to the kind of borrowing that you can do. Then you've got a regulatory environment that says you want to get an operating license. You have to apply with 17 different documents. You have to wait for a long time in order to get it. Until today, you have this huge influx or backlog of licensing issues, whether it's in the shipping, in the bus, taxi, and e-hailing space, right? Only because of a regulatory framework. Whereas today, I can go pay for bread using a card that's on my phone. Why do I need all the paperwork?
I think one of the outcomes from this conference has to be how to make some of these things practical and adjust in real time. Thanks very much for those thoughts. And Jube?
Hi. I can't really add much to that. I was going to say exactly the same. I think on a regulation side is correct. We in an analog mode still in the regulation, and I'm purely speaking from a transport trucking point of view. It is, if you look at how Uber would bring on new drivers, verify a vehicle to be certified, if we could get to that level, on the transport side, it will help a lot. But it's still very much analog, and even a truck is an analog device, but there's so much computerized systems in it to be able to upload information to verify the truck is roadworthy and stuff like that. So I think it's the gap between analog paperwork on the regulation side and new technologies that's coming through. We still have diesel trucks. Soon we can have electrical trucks, hopefully. But yeah, so, and then I think on the second point, I think why we always, the next conference is we always in reaction mode. We have to get into prediction mode now. Thank you.
Thank you. And final word to Dr. Mateta.
All right. Three quick things. On the first question around regulatory changes that would be necessary. The first would be to do away with individual routes, operating licenses, especially for passenger transport. It is the most inefficient way of managing public transport. It doesn't serve us any good, and move more towards network-based operating licenses, because transport is a network. It's not just about individual routes, and it is very costly. So just changing regulations around moving away from that to network-based, it will improve us, the effectiveness and efficiency of our networks far better, and it's doable. The other one is around procurement, regulatory reform, procurement, again, around procuring innovation. Uber spends what South Africa as a whole spends on innovation. So Uber as a company alone spends what the entire university, research councils, businesses in South Africa spend on R&D. So their product development is equivalent to what we spend as a country on innovation. You can imagine, how much resources they have. But for us, we have put everything to tender. Even research and innovation is going to tender. I mean, if you know what you want, then it's no longer innovation, it's no longer research, right? So research needs to, if we're really serious about research and innovation in the mobility space, transport space, we want to allocate resources, consolidate, and make sure that we are able to, leapfrog. If we put everything, out on tender, chances are we're not going to be as competitive with the resources, little resources that we have. In fact, data that we have shows that things declined in terms of innovation from the 80s in the transport sector because of that practice. Lastly, on collaboration on the conferences, definitely that would make sense. We're open, I think, from the Southern African Transport Conference, open to collaboration. It could be that some of the material used or contributed in the SATC comes in here and is debated from different policy perspective, political perspective. But that door is open, definitely. Could be that the one day of the SATC is spent on all things the Minister of Transport, and then the rest is all papers and so forth. So there are different permutations that could be explored. But again, it's all up to the leadership that is here.
Thank you for concluding on that open door offer. And we look forward to that collaboration going on. So I think this brings us to the end of our afternoon session. Please join me in giving a round of applause to the speakers who have joined. Thank you very much. We are a few minutes over, but now we hand over to the DG who will dismiss us. Thank you.
You are dismissed. My duty is a very small one. Honored guests, we are going to adjourn now for day one. We are done with day one. Tomorrow is parallel sessions. They are happening here. This room will be demarcated. All of those areas are now going to be used tomorrow. There are very interesting papers and presentations and contributors. So we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. But as we go out now, we need to just go prepare ourselves. There is a networking session at 1800 hours, 6 p.m. Okay. I'm instructed that the time has changed to 5:30. So From here, we're moving towards the room next to the exhibitions, where we'll have our networking. The earlier we start, the better. And let's see what they have in store for us. This meeting and all this work is here and now done. Before I say dismissed, my minister will want to say something. Thank you. It's nice to have a boss like Minister Chris. Will help with the directions and GPSs. This networking session is on the next building, the real Gallagher. On to the next building, but ushers are here and they will direct you. So we get out of here, down the stairs, and then on to the next building. The one that is connected to the parking, those who have parked inside. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Papa Telematoro. Merci beaucoup.